Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. This is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for the year 2025 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December of 2024, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Daffis.
Present.
DeLuca.
Here.
Zengel.
Here.
Furman.
Here.
Mayor Adams.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public in any meeting, and whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, except as otherwise described by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Daffis.
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Engel.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. Please rise for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 21st meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. Tonight, we have a promotion of a lieutenant, so pretty soon the house will be empty after you're done. So once we're done with that presentation, we'll move on to some reappointments in boards and committees, including an appointment to the new appointment to the Community Board on Police for Ronnie Schwartz. Then we will have public comment for agenda items only. Then we will have an ordinance, 1, 2, 3 ordinances on final passage. There are no introductions to ordinances tonight. Then we will have reports from departments, and then reports from elected officials in this order: Committee Member Daffis, Committee Member DeLuca, Committee Member Engel, Deputy Mayor Herman, and then my report. We have several discussion items on for tonight. We have a discussion item on the demographics of Maplewood's boards and committees. We have zoning changes in our commercial districts that Mr. Daffis will lead as part of Code Committee. Affordable housing fourth round obligation, and Mr. DeLuca will lead that. Site plan exempt code revision, again, Mr. Daffis. And stormwater utility credit policy, which you've probably, if you're paying attention, you've been listening to us talk about for a while. And then we'll have Mr. Wary for police off-duty rates. After that, we have the consent agenda, another public comment session on any topic, and then we will adjourn. So before we delay any further for the babies and children in the room, we'll get moving. So we have a resolution and swearing in to do. Can I get a motion on Sebastian Alvarez, Lieutenant promotion?
Mayor, I'm going to read the resolution in full.
Yes, go ahead.
Resolution number 61-25. Resolution appointing new police lieutenant of Maplewood Police Department, Sebastian Alvarez. Whereas a vacancy has occurred for the position of lieutenant of the Maplewood Police Department, and whereas Sebastian Alvarez has long served the Maplewood Police Department in many capacities, and whereas Sebastian Alvarez possesses all the necessary qualifications to assume the duties of lieutenant of the Maplewood Police Department, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that effective January 21st, Sebastian Alvarez be and is hereby appointed as lieutenant of the Maplewood Police Department.
Can I get a motion, please, Mr. DeLuca?
I move the passage of this resolution, 61-25.
Single.
I second that.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Ms. Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, Congratulations. No, We already met the junior lieutenant earlier in closed session. So cute.
It's very smart. He's looking at-
Yeah, you put your hand on that, unlike the last night.
Who did not put his hand on anything.
Well,
That I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey. And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the governments established in this state and United States and under the authority of the people. That I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of the office of Lieutenant Maplewood Police Department according to the best of my ability. Congratulations, Lieutenant.
does he have to sign something, Ms. Fritzen? Might need both hands. Somebody hold the paper. Lieutenant, if you'd like to say a few words, please do. Yeah, right there.
I also want to thank the community of Maplewood as without them, there'd be no reason to be here. I want to thank the administration of the police department and the town council for entrusting me with this position. I also want to thank family that's guided me along the way, members of the police department, retired and current, that have guided me along the way. And just looking forward to settling into the role and doing the best I can and continuing to serve the community.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Everyone's welcome to stay for the next 2 hours, or you can go have fun somewhere.
They're like, we're gonna go.
Thanks anyway, but we're gonna go. Did you get pictures? Did you want pictures? Oh, okay. Oh,
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hmm? Right? So cute. There you go.
Where's the party in case we get done early?
Yeah, really.
Aw, you can take her anywhere. She's so cute.
The girls are always more behaved than the boys.
Mm, mm,
No? The boys are simple. They just want food and toys.
that's
Spoken like somebody who's never
like, yeah,
Well, I have
Right.
nieces and nephews, so.
not the same.
not the same. Bless your heart.
Bless your heart. Bless your heart.
I just think the girls are more evolved.
All right. So we're gonna move on to boards and committees. I don't wanna interrupt.
Give it a
but-
minute,
Yeah,
because you're not going to be able to hear anything.
Are we gonna start with Community Board and Police? I don't see her here.
I don't see Ronnie. Ronnie's not here? Is she,
Online, she said she
is
would
she
be.
online? Right,
yeah.
right.
Should we do the reappointments first, or?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I just want to make sure she's on. Is Ronnie Schwartz on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. No. Is the appointment we're making to Community Board on Police, Ronnie Schwartz, is she on Zoom watching? Okay,
Uh-huh.
we'll do her first and then we'll do the reappointments. So you want to move her over?
Deputy chief. It's the chief, the deputy chief.
Yes.
And then the other lieutenant that we last made. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. You'll learn them. Yeah. We don't either.
All right, so when you have Ms. Schwartz over, you make her a panelist, you might want to tell her. Make sure she's paying attention. We're reappointing Ronnie or appointing Ronnie.
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Mayor. This evening, we have a new appointment. Are we good? We're good? Okay. Thank you, Mayor. This evening, we have a new appointment to the Community Board on Police, Maplewood resident Ronnie Schwartz, who I believe has joined us online, and we welcome her to say hello to us and to the public and to express her interest in serving the community in this important manner. Ronnie?
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry that I'm not able to be there in person this evening. I do look forward to meeting all of the folks on the committee in person very soon. Thank you for entrusting me with this appointment. I am very much looking forward to serving the community and serving with the rest of the Maplewood Community Board on Police. I've lived in town for 13 years, and I spent my entire childhood growing up around police, as both of my parents were in law enforcement. And I think, are you able to hear me?
You're going in and out. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Okay, hold on one sec. Is that better?
Not sure.
Go ahead, say something so we can see. We can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear
Sorry
you.
that I'm not able to be there in person. You
No,
can
we
hear me
can't
now?
now.
Okay. Um, I'm really looking forward to serving on the Community Board on Police. I'm not sure if you heard what I said a second ago. I've lived in town for 13 years and spent my entire childhood and grew up with police because both of my parents were in law enforcement. And I've been very involved in the community the entire time I've lived here. So I truly look forward to serving in this capacity, and I appreciate
Yeah,
the
somebody,
appointment.
Thank you very much. I think you would be an excellent member to our board and provide a unique perspective. So with that, I will move the appointment of Ronnie Schwartz on the Community Board on Police for a term that would end, shoot, I didn't do the math on this.
27?
27, I think, or is it 28?
7.
27, okay. 12/31/27, right.
Right. I'll second.
It's up to you.
Nancy seconded
Did you
it.
second?
Yes.
I just in here. Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes. Congratulations, Ronnie, and thank you for stepping up.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay warm. All right, now we're going to move to some reappointments for some of our boards and committees. And I'm going to start with Mr. Daffis. You had a couple. I don't have the closed in front of me.
No worries, Mayor, and thank you. I'm moving the reappointments of the following members from the Arts Council: Serge Espida, Marcy Thompson, Tricia Tunsdale, Brenda Presley, and Catherine Porter.
Okay. Do we need to vote on them?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Ms. Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes. That's all you have, Mr. Daffis?
I actually have a couple more, Mayor, and I promise that'll be it for my reappointments this evening. I also move the reappointment of Robert, also known as Bob Thompson, our longstanding rent leveling board chair.
I'll second.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Ms. Engel.
Yes.
Ms. Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes.
And lastly, the reappointment of Community Board on Police existing member Alexis Carteron. I move her reappointment.
Second.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
DeLuca.
Yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes. All right, we'll
Thank you.
move to Deputy Mayor. Would you like to
Yes.
move yours?
I have some reappointments. First, for the Recreation Advisory Committee, I move to reappoint Dennis Kearney, Brian Callahan, and Michael Losario.
I'll second.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Ms. Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes.
And then secondly, for the Pool Advisory Committee, I move to reappoint 3 members, Melissa Rennie, Jennifer Coleman, and Karen Harris.
I'll second.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
DeLuca.
Yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Ms. Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes. Do you have any others? Nope. No. Okay. Ms. Engel, you had for.
Thank you. Yes. I move to reappoint Robert McCoy to the Environmental Advisory Committee.
Second.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
Yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Ms. Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes. Did we cover all of them? That's a lot. No, thank you all.
Oh, I thought you had another one. No.
No, we were, I
No,
thought the
they're
same thing.
next.
Okay.
Okay, so now we move to public comment for agenda items only. If anyone would like to speak to the Township Committee, you're welcome to come up to the microphone and state your name and address. You have 3 minutes to speak. Or if it's not agenda item, you can come.
Oh, it isn't? Okay.
If you'd like to come up. Yeah, so you don't have to wait. I understand that. I'm waiving that for now.
Really enjoyed my time here at Maplewood. I'm sorry to say that yesterday, was the most uncomfortable I've ever felt. Because of my origin, because of my national origin. And my family went to yesterday's Day celebration at high school. And we were there also supporting my son Miles, who was singing with chorus. High school was there, and although it was an event sponsored by the place, it did feel very much like a municipal event. And together with my community, and then the first invited speaker in his first substantive comment, rather than remark on our community, rather than remark on the state of affairs in our country, the first thing he did was Jewish homeland and bring attention to Palestinians, which had nothing to do with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., nothing to do with race relations in our community and our country, and served only to alienate, offend, and upset the Jewish community. At that time, I just I grabbed my son and I did so with the emotion free that my son didn't even get his winter coat. I don't need to tell you what the temperature is like yesterday for you to understand, what state of mind I must have been in to have my son leave school without his coat and then have to go back to school today. From others who were likewise later in the remarks. And although, I don't know if these comments were vetted by the people raised or by our officials.
No.
Today on social media, I saw that everybody was celebrating the wonderful love and inclusion that yesterday's assembly demonstrated. I guess it's love and inclusion that's not extended to our Jewish community. I've never felt so unseen, so unheard. I know that I'm not alone in this, that, since October 7th, the Jewish community has been made to feel other and separate and not worthy of inclusion in those efforts. I'm here to tell you that's not okay. We're not okay.
Okay. We hear you and thank you for sharing those feelings. I think if, and I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I'm sure that wasn't intended by the organizers, the Community Coalition on Race, certainly, and any of us who were in attendance. The speaker was from out of town, came to speak, was hired by the Community Coalition, but we will definitely relay your thoughts to the director of the Community Coalition. I would suggest you write to them also, so that I'm not speaking for you, but I will let them know that was heard and felt. And I'm sorry you felt that way. As someone not of the Jewish faith, I may not have heard it the way you heard it. But I know exactly what you're talking about. And yeah, and I'm sorry that happened and that you felt that way, because it's certainly not the intention of a day celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. So, but I hear you, and I would urge you to contact the Community Coalition, and then I will also do the same just to follow up. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Thanks. Mr. Wary, is there anyone online who would like to speak on agenda items?
There's any members of the public joining us
Sorry.
via Zoom would like to speak on agenda items only, please raise your hand.
Sorry, Ms. Perez, I'm so used to saying.
Mayor, there are none.
None. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to ordinances on final passage. Once,
Yes, Mayor.
You have it.
Item number 8, ordinance on final passage. Capital ordinance appropriating $176,000 from the general capital CIF, Capital Improvement Fund, to provide for rehabilitation of the sanitary sewer system on Maplewood Avenue between Highland Place and Inwood Place, in and by the Township of Maplewood, County of Essex, State of New Jersey. Capital ordinance shall provide funding for the cleaning and select rehabilitation of the sanitary sewer system on Maplewood Avenue between Highland Place and Inwood Place.
this ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board and municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one in the house, is there anyone online who would like to speak to this ordinance?
Any members of the public joining us via Zoom, if you would like to speak regarding this ordinance, please raise your hand. I see none, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion, Mr. DeLuca?
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
A second.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes. Next ordinance on final.
Yes, Mayor, ordinance number 3140-25 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic with respect to 2-hour parking on Raymond Terrace. This ordinance will amend 2-hour parking on Raymond Terrace between Milburn Avenue and the township border.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Can I get a motion, Mr. DeLuca?
You're going to do a hearing?
Oh, I forgot the hearing. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak to this?
Any members of the public joining us via Zoom, if you'd like to speak on this ordinance, please raise your hand. I see none, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca.
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second it.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes, thank you. And the last ordinance on for final?
Yes, Mayor, ordinance 3141-25. An ordinance amending ordinance 3138-24 of the Township of Maplewood, establishing a stormwater utility. This ordinance will amend Ordinance 3138-24 of the Township, which established a stormwater utility to lengthen the period of time in which a property owner may appeal a fee calculation.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. We open the hearing right now for this ordinance. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to?
Any members of the public joining us via Zoom? If you'd like to speak on this ordinance, please raise your hand. I see none, Mayor.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Engel?
Yes.
Herman?
Yes.
Mayor Adams?
Yes, thank you. We have no ordinances on for introduction. We'll have reports from departments. Mr. Worry. You, yeah, that's you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Last time I checked.
Just two topics. So the first regarding the cold weather that we're experiencing and is forecast to continue through the week. The township has engaged with our consultants who reach out to homeless individuals, and they are, like they do all the time, but with special attention this time on moving those individuals who are interested to warming shelters and to shelters generally. And so they're out actually right now. They're out tonight from 8 to 12 a.m. and again during the night on this coming Friday. And so we'll be canvassing specifically for that interest. For anybody who's facing a heat-related emergency, they can contact our police department. We can move them to the police department, the courtroom in the public safety building as a temporary location, and then we can open up a warming shelter if needed. So for anybody who's experiencing a heat-related emergency, we urge them to contact our police department's non-emergency number. And if you know of anybody or if you see individuals who you think may need help, you can also reach out to the non-emergency number. The second topic is we have on the agenda tonight a few.
Can we make sure that that gets out on a SMS text or even a next?
Yeah, we have put out some prior, and we could put one out again tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely. And then the second is we have a few appointments of employees tonight. So we have a technical assistant to the construction official, Martha Banks, who had served with us previously. So we're excited to have her back. Fire inspector who is replacing a promotion that we have, Steve Zatko. And we have a need for temporary help in the finance department. And one of our former employees has agreed to come back on a part-time temp basis. So Carolina Rodriguez will be helping us in finance. So we welcome those employees.
Great.
That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Any questions for our administrator's office? Nope. Okay. Township attorney. That's easy. Any questions for our legal? Nope. Okay. Township clerk.
Just one thing, Mayor. An update on our 2025 commuter parking, jitney passes, combos. We began offering those permits for sale December 15th. We give a 3-week grace period, and today was the end of the grace period. So I'm assuming, most people have come in, don't have to come in. It's all done online now. But enforcement has begun, so just give that information out here tonight to remind people.
Okey-doke. Thank you. Any questions for our clerk's office? Seeing none, we'll move on to elected officials. Mr. Daffis.
Thanks, Mayor. A couple quick items here. From code, there's a lot of activity, and we'll wait till the discussion items to talk a little bit about some of that activity. From Community Board on Police, we're back. We had our first meeting for the new year, and I'm really pleased to report that I'll be working very closely with the board in reestablishing our restorative justice program, which sort of fell apart after we lost a few volunteers, including the person who was leading it. And we think we're going to structure things a little bit differently this time around, and in best practice models that we are looking at across the nation and right here in the county of Essex, actually. More on that soon. I'm excited to also announce that we're moving closer to establishing review guidelines for our use of force and IA reviews and an MOU between the police department and the board in terms of data, establishing some data benchmarks so that we have reports that are automated and in a regular cadence so that the board can more fulsomely report its activities to the community on a more regular basis. And that will also, in turn, increase our community engagement, which is something that we need to do with the board. Rent Leveling Board, tonight we reappointed our chair, and we have a lot of work to do to rebuild this board. We're not even sure how many units still apply under our rent leveling ordinance. One thing we are sure about is that it needs dusting off and revisions. It's very old. It's based on old CPI guidance. That's the Consumer Price Index. And again, we're not even sure how many units are still under it. And just a reminder for folks out there that it also does include, our rent leveling ordinance does include a vacancy decontrol. So that means that when someone passes on or moves out, the unit is no longer controlled, regulated. So more on that as we rebuild. And then lastly, the Arts Council is excited to start doing its magic in the new year. They sort of lost some steam and their direction when we lost our last arts and culture manager. Now we have a new one, and they're excited to work alongside them and establish a very strong, sustainable relationship with our arts and culture manager. And this evening, as you heard earlier, we reappointed the majority of the board whose terms had expired. That is my report, Mayor. I'll take any questions.
Okay, so I don't have to ask. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Daffus? Except I just did. Okay. Great, thank you. Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. I got 5 items. Black History Month's coming up next month. And just want to tee up that on February 4th, we'll do our proclamation, Township Committee proclamation. We have a pretty robust program planned. Everything from fashion shows on Springfield Avenue to a runway show at Columbia High School. We have Duran Hedden. We have the Community Coalition on Race, Words Bookstore, and a bunch of things. We're doing music and art. We'll have Soma Justice will be doing their programs throughout the month. So we will be we'll be kicking this off with a press release next week, and our webpage will be up for Black History Month 2025. The Historic Preservation Commission. It is, our commission, our municipality is a certified local government community, which means that we're eligible for
Money.
money. Yes. So the way it works is that the state gets federal money, historic preservation money, and 10% of that money has to be given to local, certified local groups, local government, and it's on an application basis. And the bottom line here is that our Historic Preservation Commission would like to go for a grant. So the process is they have to come before the Township Committee. So we're planning, when they come on February 3rd, they're going to be making a presentation for their budget request because they made a budget request this year. They will also be presenting to us a short presentation on the grant request and asking for our authorization to do that. So I just wanted to let you all know that.
First said no to an organization asking for a resolution to apply for a grant.
You know what? We may have.
Right.
And maybe
But we
they
certainly
need,
we certainly want them to come and explain what they're asking.
Yeah.
right, and maybe they need a resolution from the governing body for the
Yeah, no,
application.
it often is needed. I just
Yeah.
always wonder if anybody
said
ever
no.
says no.
Yeah.
I'm happy to announce on our agenda tonight, on the consent agenda, is 6525, the resolution. and that's the community host agreement with TerraSend. So we'll be, if we adopt that, we'll be sending it to TerraSend for cross signatures with the mayor and get that moving. I want to announce that this Saturday at 11:30 a.m. at the Hilton branch of the library, there will be lion dances as part of the lunar month. Come out and see the lion dance at the Hilton branch.
We'll miss that.
And lastly, on Sunday at 11 o'clock, I was asked just the other day by the Ethical Culture Society to speak on the election. Ironically, 20 years ago, I spoke on the election of George Bush over John Kerry. And I'll be talking again. And the topic is agonize, strategize, and organize.
There you go.
So that's it.
Wow. Any questions for Mr. DeLuca? I'm just drinking that in a little bit.
And I'm not going to say anything else. You're going to have to come and listen, Mayor.
When is that again? Sunday what?
Sunday, 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock.
Yeah, in the morning, a.m.
Well, I figured.
How long are you speaking for? Want to know?
Well,
like
if it's 28 minutes, it will be about what you spoke.
Very clever. Are there bagels?
It's 11 o'clock. I think you've eaten your breakfast before you got there.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Okay. Committee member Engel, follow that.
I don't know if I can, but I'll start then with our awesome new public information officer who's been posting content on our Instagram at Maplewood TWP, and she started a new series, Tip Tuesday, which launched today. So check it out, and you can find different fun things about Maplewood. YouthNet had their monthly meeting, and we talked a lot about their awesome internship programming. So they will be updating their information for businesses who would like a summer intern, and for students in high school who are interested in getting a summer internship with businesses or government in Maplewood and South Orange. I know our clerk had a very successful intern last summer, and it's a really exciting program to get involved and to be able to learn things to get a job later on in life. So I definitely recommend all students look into it, and business owners as well. The SOMA Interfaith Holocaust Remembrance Service is coming up on March 23rd. There will be a event first at Spiota Park, and then we will march up to Bethel. So more coming on that. I believe it starts at 3 o'clock in Spiota, and then the service begins at 4 o'clock at Bethel. We hope to have Holocaust survivors attending again. And you can go to rememberandtell.org for more information and to learn more about this event that's been going on for how many years, Mr. DeLuca? A lot of many years. It's a great group of people working on it. And then finally, the Reach for Recovery mobile van will be returning to the Maplewood Community Fridge tomorrow, Wednesday, January 22nd, from 10 to 2. And this is a really exciting program that our health department brings. The van is for people who are looking for help with substance use, or for family members or friends who believe somebody they loved has substance use disorder, and you can get resources, Narcan distribution, care coordination, lots of information. So again, the Reach Recovery Van tomorrow, Wednesday at the Community Fridge from 10 to 2. And that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Engel? No? All right. Deputy Mayor Herman.
Hi, I was looking through all my committees and they're all meeting next week, so it's going to be a busy week. We haven't met pool, recreation, CCR, and youth. And the senior committee met, and thank you for sharing about the code blue. They were concerned about warm places, and they were also looking for like a place where they could go walking indoors where it might be warm. So we're talking about that. For the Health and Community Services Committee, we heard some budget reports from health, from community services, pool, arts and culture, and we'll be talking about that in our budget workshops. And then additionally, I have some exciting programming to share. And I say exciting because the first thing on my list is puppy yoga. So AKA doing yoga in my house with 2 dogs. It's pretty much puppy yoga. But yeah, if you want to play with other puppies and do yoga at the same time, I think it's pretty much playing with puppies. maybe
Yeah,
some
I don't
yoga.
know,
I don't know, but this is the second time I think that we're offering it. We did it before and I wish that I had gone, so I'm definitely going this time.
Are you
But
bringing both your dogs?
no, you don't bring your dogs.
Oh,
They
have
have
other dogs.
puppies
Oh,
there.
right, and then you're supposed to adopt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They bring puppies and I think it's dogs for adoption, so it's really cool. So registration is open for that right now, and that will be on February 2nd. There's a manifesting meditation series, which is open until Thursday to register. There's only 4 spots left. Cozy Kitchen on Nutrition, which is the senior cooking class. Registration is open for this 3-part series. And then I just want to also spotlight that girls' spring softball registration is still going on. It's a really great program, so check that out. And camp registrations, they opened. It was very, very busy, but there are still some registrations open, so please check that out. There are limited spots available in Maplecraft, tennis camp, dive camp, creative learning camps, MAPSO Summer Slam basketball camp, multi-sport camp, and soccer camp. So lots of good options to check out.
All right, any questions for Deputy Mayor Herman?
I heard that registration went really, really well. So just congratulations to Ms. Mancuso and the entire community services staff for doing
Something
such a
like
great job with the kickoff.
$400,000+. But yeah, so we offer a lot.
And having some of these camps, like the dive camp and the like the swim, I think the mermaid one might have filled up already. But some of these pool ones, we typically don't have that registration open till later in the year. So it's really great that our rec department was able to open these up in the beginning of the year because it really helps parents plan. So that's taking feedback and actioning.
And yeah, it works that way sometimes. All right, thank you very much. I just have a couple things. Our electric jitney, senior jitney, electric bus is going to be ready a week from Thursday. Correct? All lettered and ready for us to cut a ribbon.
I'm sure there'll be like a snowstorm to
In
mess
the-
it up or something
That's
will
right, we
happen
should
to
get
delay
like-
it some more.
And we'll work with the township committee on a date for an unveiling at a senior event.
Just know that you have to, if it's this cold, you should plug your electric jitney bus in overnight,
Noted.
Yes.
right? You lose a lot of power. And we've started planning for Women's History Month. And on March 4th, I think is also February 4th and March 4th, right?
Yes.
Yeah, March 4th will be our Wear White for Women photo, along with our proclamation where we invite previous and current elected women leaders in South Orange and Maplewood to come and take part in that. It's become a tradition. It's a little long, but it's, I think,
Fun.
really nice.
Yeah.
So that's all I have. So you did the cold weather thing, so we're good to move on to discussion items. So we have several, and we'll start with Mr. DeLuca for demographics on Maplewood's boards and committees.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mr. Weary, I sent you, you're gonna be able to put it up, okay. So since 2018, we've been doing an annual survey of the membership of our boards and committees. And we've been tracking that. We present it now, we'll be presenting it tonight. And you can put that up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, are you gonna share that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the, if you can make that larger. We asked people to identify themselves by their race, ethnicity, and you can see for, we did this in December and we got an 83% response rate, 75 out of 90 board and committee members surveyed, which is about the same. Last year, we got an 85% response rate. This year, we added, Mr. Daffis recommended that we mimic the state demographics by adding Middle Eastern or North African. So we added that category and we actually got 2% response. But you can see most of our members of boards and committees are identify as white, and then 20% as Black, African American, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Middle Easterns, all at 2%, and then 2% put down other. If you go to the next slide. This is the trend over time. And in 2018, we were at 74% white and 14% Black African American. We had, and I should say that contrary to what we're hearing out of Washington, we have always been committed to diversity, inclusion, and equity. And until we say differently, we're going to continue to do that. Our trend was to try to make our committees more diverse. We were doing pretty well. We kind of bumped up this year. This could be, an outlier, but unfortunately, we did move up in the white population this year and down in the Black population. So we've just got to continue. One of the reasons we do this is to help guide us as we make appointments through the year. So as we make, we made some appointments tonight. We'll be making more appointments through the year, and we just be cognizant of it and try to meet our goals. Can we go to the next slide? Now, this is quite interesting over the last, years since 2018. We've actually flipped. You can see here, female is 60%, male 39%, non-binary 1%. If you go down to the bottom there, you can see back in 2018, males represented 53% of our boards and committees, and females 45%. And now that really has jumped up to 60% female and 39% male. So
I have so many comments running through that I'm not.
yeah. Even on this township committee. We can go to the next slide then.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's terrific.
Get stuff done.
Age is, this has been pretty standard. The sweet spot for volunteerism is that 40 to 60-year-old, which makes, I've said it last time, and
Makes me older too.
it's, when people, their kids are older, they have a little more time, they may be more established in their profession. But that has been pretty consistent. Same thing with the chart on below. We did say that we wanted to get more renters involved to make, just to have another perspective. And that has actually worked. We went from 4% in 2018, we're up to 8% now, which I think is a good thing. Next slide is up on top, we have the LGBTQIA+. This is a bit of a disappointment. We've been going up over the years, and we kind of dropped down this year. So again, that's something, and I know we're working for recognition by an outside rating group. So we really want to work on this a little bit more.
Drop down to, from what to what?
6% last year to 3%
That's
this
what
year.
I thought
Yeah.
it's in like an eye chart.
And 2018, we were at 4%. So, again, living in Maplewood, the majority lives here between 7 and 15 and 20 years. We do have, again, a lot of people, 21%, have been here 30 years or more. That actually has gone down a bit. So I go to the next one is how many years you've been on your board or committee. This is good. 39%, we consistently have almost 4 in 10 are in their first or second year on the committee, which is good because we're looking to bring new people on. And then if you look at, the under 5 years, it's over 50%, almost, it's, 62% for 2024. So that's a little high. And then again, if you look at the pie chart, the blue is they're in their first term and the yellow is in their second term, they've been on for one reappointment. So that's 60% are either in their first term or their second term, and 40% are in terms longer than that. And then lastly, this is, you're familiar with the Township Code. Most people are, by far. Most people, attend the meetings in either the last quarter or the last 30 days. Do we have active participation? This has been consistent. 11% of the respondents don't think that the Township Committee member is active. I hope it's none of my committees.
Oh.
And then, again, 89% of the people on the committees feel that they're making progress towards their mission, which is good. I mean, those questions at the end have been pretty constant, but at least it gives us a sense. So again, I think this is meant as a tool for us to just be aware as we make these appointments that, you know, and we do the recruitment. We're talked about using the newsletter a little bit more to try to reach folks, and we do have a lot of people on our list. We ought to look at that list, that volunteer list, and dig down a little bit into that list by looking. You know, some people identify their race or ethnicity, but some people in their resumes, you can see that they have experience that might be helpful on the committee. So I would just urge us to be, you know, as deliberate as possible.
Do we
throughout the year.
compare that to the overall population?
We don't. I mean, the overall population is nowhere near 72%
Yeah,
white. So
right.
we're way beyond, you know, we're out of whack with the overall population on our boards and committees.
Okay.
You know, the white members of our boards and committees are much larger than the white members of our population, and the Black African-American members on our committee are way lower than the population.
Okay.
And we talked about when using our newsletter to highlight like what it is that you actually do serving on a board and committee, what the time commitment is like, what the role is, to give a little bit of an idea. So it's like, oh, maybe I can actually do that. It's
Right.
a one meeting a month or one meeting a quarter. Like I can handle that in a couple emails.
Yeah.
And it's really fun. It's a great way to give back to your community. So
Agreed.
Yeah, and I think thank you, committee member DeLuca. I mean, this is really illuminating. I think it boils down to our having to do more recruiting. We have to come up with a recruiting plan. And sometimes that's just going out there in a fun way, an interactive way, and just saying to people, hey, we have these boards and committees. You can actually help shape some of the programming and even our policies. Get involved, you know? So we'll have to do some of that.
do we have our own table isn't there a volunteer fair?
Yesterday.
Oh, it was yesterday.
Yeah, at the King,
No, not that one. Isn't there another one in the spring at the Woodlands?
Oh, yes,
Like a
yes.
volunteer fair. So
We do not have a table there.
maybe we want to have a table for boards and committees where we can have literature out, what they are, what the openings are. Some
Great
information.
idea.
Do we have a table at all?
No.
No,
Okay.
Who
Mark your
organizes?
calendars.
Individual committees had
at
table,
two
like,
towns.
Two towns organizes
yeah,
it?
like I think seniors had a table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, that's because the Two Towns for All Ages runs
Yeah.
that thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
So
Yeah,
Marion, we put this on your list.
I think those are all good ideas, the newsletter, but those are, when you look at who attends those, they're not as representative as the groups we're trying to reach.
right.
We have to really go into the communities that we're trying to reach and get those folks.
yeah.
Okay.
Another element of diversity in our community that would be nice to also try and incorporate is the like neurodiverse and disabled community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that we have talked about trying to incorporate through All Access.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, that could be something that we also take a look at.
Good idea. All right. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Mr. Daffis, we have zoning changes.
We do, Mayor, and I will try to get through this quickly. I promise. In hindsight, I should have also done a illustrate, show and tell with a map, and perhaps if we adopt these tonight, we can provide that information in that manner on our website. We'll find the appropriate place for it. So I did forward along some background information and, you know, our discussions in Code Committee to the rest of the Township Committee. Hopefully you had the chance to review that information, and for the public's edification, I can go through some of these. The majority of them are pretty technical. They're all recommended by the master plan, our new master plan. I keep saying new master plan. You know, it's not so new anymore. But yes, these are all recommended by the master plan, and it's an opportunity for us to, in some ways, if I may, be a little bit corrective in terms of making some of the zones complement each other and ensuring that some of the uses are permitted. For instance, the first zoning change that's recommended by the master plan and the code committee and the Master Plan Implementation Working Group. And I won't say that with each one. Don't worry, no introductions. Then is at 1452 Springfield Avenue, the zone where we have the New Jersey Transit Bus Garage. It's currently zoned as research office. And the proposed zoning change is to make it highway business, like a great chunk of Springfield Avenue, and add public bus garage as a permitted use. The second one is on the other side over on Milburn Avenue, 2030 to 2048 Milburn Avenue by the Marie Place parking lot, which is currently zoned as highway business, and the proposed zoning change is office business. And this would reflect an accurate accessory use in the office business zone, allowing for off-street parking lots for office buildings since we have the office buildings there. And nearby, 8 and 9 and 10 Marie Place and 22 through 24 Marie Place, which is currently zoned for highway business. The proposed change is to zone it residential R14, which would allow, which would be in keeping with the single and attached housing, and consistent with the homes on the other side of Marie Place and Broadview Avenue. And then we also looked at and proposed and recommend adopting, changing the parking requirements for residential zones from 2 spaces per unit to 1 space per unit. This is not such a controversial thing anymore. As you all know, we have in recent years been reducing the 2 spaces to about 1.5 and even less than that, in keeping with the change in that regard everywhere. That's also the number one change that our zoning board provides in terms of providing a variance. And then we also looked at removing the parking requirements in the pedestrian retail business zone, the PRB as we call it. And that is something that's highly recommended by our master plan. The idea would be to make it consistent with the retail business zone, which doesn't have a parking requirement. B, to promote more active sidewalks and uses in the PRB, in the pedestrian retail business zone, which is favored by our merchants and our business special improvement district managers. But, you know, we had some discussion in code committee, and there were a couple of concerns, one of them being if we didn't have the parking requirement there, then we could have the unintended consequence of pushing a lot of parking into the surrounding neighborhoods. For some people, that was okay. Those streets are public streets. For other folks, that was a real concern, and we do get emails a lot of time when our public streets are, you know, jammed with a lot of parking, especially when someone's parking in front of your driveway and so on and so forth. And we also realized that if we were going to do this, and which I'll be talking about in the next discussion item, and also adopting our revised site plan exemption ordinance, we would be creating a parking conflict. And I'll explain that a little bit more when we get to the site plan review code. But these were essentially the zoning changes. Nothing too sexy here or controversial in any way. And we have reviewed these several times in code committee and discussed them pretty fulsomely. And we recommend their adoption.
So the on-site parking requirement in the PRB zone, right? That's the one you just highlighted. And that's typically for new construction, like mixed use, correct? Because it's not like existing buildings don't,
No, it is existing building.
it is existing buildings? Okay, so I
It's a
would,
change of use. It becomes under the standards of the parking, of the new parking.
right.
Could we just take a step back? And could you just explain the pedestrian retail business? So which areas of town would that fall under? Like
Yeah, we should
Springfield?
have had the map up. Can you show the map?
It's only Springfield.
It's just Springfield Avenue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so my question is about the park. I have another question, not about any changes, which I'll bring up in a second. But my question about the parking is, do retail business, they don't have parking lots right now, right? Do they have to go get a variance?
Yes.
Each of them goes in front and gets a variance.
If
I am for eliminating parking requirements on retail businesses. I'll just say that right out. I've always been for it. I'll always be for it.
So we are, but the issue is if you have, for example, we had a restaurant that changed from a restaurant and that had off-street parking on the corner of corner of Springfield and Rutgers. So if you change that, you could build and eliminate all the off-street parking for that restaurant. And that is exactly what Mr. Daffa says. It pushes all that parking into the neighborhood. So you have to figure a way,
Building bigger, possibly.
and you can make that building bigger and take the whole site. You still have to provide parking for residents, but you could say, I'm not providing any parking. So we have to figure out, I think we all agree that we should eliminate parking for retail businesses. The question is, can we do it for retail businesses and then still have restaurants, maybe a doctor's office, have some off-street.
Because are those considered retail right now in
No.
our, or no, they're
Defined
separate?
different.
Yeah.
So that's the way I think we can address this is by going back and looking at the definitions and then bringing that back into the body and saying retail as defined in the ordinance,
Right.
which is what you think retail is. It's
Right, I know
retail
our,
goods and services.
right. Well, our ordinance is a little broader in the retail definition than some other
Yeah, but
municipalities.
it's
Yeah.
goods and services.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not off the table
So it's not off the
forever.
table. It was
No,
just
no,
that we
not
have
by
to
far,
Yeah.
Not by far.
Yeah.
minutia a little bit
Yeah,
to
yeah,
figure
yeah.
out so that if it's a
Yeah.
big
We don't want-
restaurant with Eden, that they are still
We don't want
required.
an
to have parking.
unintended consequence. That's the
Right.
problem.
Right, right.
My second note, Mr. Daffis, was just, it's not even one of the changes, but in the permitted uses, 1A, it says, retail businesses, not including thrift shops, pawn shops, and check cashing establishments. And I was curious about thrift shops, especially because on the other discussion item, you're going to have pedestrian retail business, PRP zone. That bullet point is different, not including pawn shops and check cashing
You can
establishments.
jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, please, go ahead.
Oh, it was just defined differently in, so not like a consignment or a vintage store. It doesn't fall under.
Right, and that's another thing where we have to go in and
It's
redefine.
not defined.
We should I believe we should redefine because we want to be promoting secondhand and reuse
Right.
of clothing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just
But
wondering,
yeah.
Right.
that'll be
Mhm.
also fixed in this.
Yes, agreed.
eventually.
And we'll take this back to code as well. And we did flag that, as you said, Mayor, in our discussions at code,
Yeah.
as something that needs to be tweaked as well to bring this together.
Those are my only
Yeah.
questions or.
The really hard part about this is just what we were just talking about with regard to parking and trying to rely less on cars and promote the pedestrian aspect and make it more activity on the sidewalks. But to Mr. DeLuca's point, we need to do some more defining to figure out how to do that without.
I think we can. I think we just have to go back to the definitions
All right.
of some of the other zones. But are there any other questions, by the way,
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
about what was proposed thus far?
I mean, we.
I think
talked
what
about
you've
it, like,
proposed so far
Yeah.
is
I move that we adopt the zoning changes in.
Well, we gotta do it.
we have
by
to
ordinance.
do it as an ordinance.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah, what am I
We
saying?
can, if we agree, we can instruct our attorney to
Correct.
start working on it
Correct.
Got that,
Sorry.
attorney? Okay.
Going too fast here.
and have it done. And by the time we end the meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, enough of the time, because I want to move it. Yeah.
It's so uncomplicated, so go ahead. Yeah.
Right.
All right. So we're good with that one, and then we'll move on to the other thing for your next discussion item? Okay.
Sure.
No,
want me
no,
to
I
wait?
mean, after we'll
Okay,
go to affordable, we'll give it a little break on Who's talking?
You should see that. Separated.
Separated affordable housing fourth round obligation and set aside, Mr. DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. So, as we all know, we received the report from the Department of Community Affairs setting up Maplewood's obligation in what's called the fourth round of affordable housing. This all stems from a lawsuit that's called the Mount Laurel lawsuit, and there's been four rounds before. Maplewood has always met its obligation in the first 3 rounds. Our new requirements are 20 rehabilitations and 216 new units. And just in the last, in our 3rd round, we had an obligation of over 400 units. So I think the recognition that we've provided units in the past and maybe some other calculations have brought that down. And this is for a 10-year period. This is through 2025. So one of the things that a municipality has to do before the end of this month, January 31st, is to either to accept these numbers or fight these numbers. Essentially, you let either the courts or the DCA know that you're not accepting these numbers and you're going to challenge them. We hired a consultant from Harbor Consultants Group, Michael Mistretta. The Affordable Housing Board met with him on the 13th of January. We discussed whether or not the numbers that the DCA put forth are sound and valid. He thinks they are. He thinks that even if we were to calculate any possible discrepancy to what DCA says versus what we find, we might be able to bring those numbers down to 214. It isn't worth it. And I think Maplewood has, and I think the Affordable Housing Board felt this, that Maplewood has always, as I said, lived up to its responsibilities. It's been a leader in this, and we feel that 216 units over the next 10 years is a goal we can work for. There will be some adjustments to that number based on how much land we actually have to build, and what projects are coming up. So, but that's the number that we would expect to work toward rather. And what we have to do, there's a resolution on the agenda 40-25 that basically says that we accept these numbers and we're prepared to move forward, and that we do have a right to adjust these based on vacant land adjustments and surveys of available land, what's developable over time, things like that. So the Affordable Housing Board recommends that the Township Committee adopt the DCA numbers.
How long after this adoption of the resolution, when does that survey of vacant land adjustment and all those adjustments?
Immediately
get done?
after.
Good question. So we have to, by the end of January, let DCA know if we're going to accept these or not, and then we have to file a fair share housing element and fair share plan by June, or in June 30th, I guess.
Yeah.
So we have 5 more months to get this together. So that's what we'll be working with Mr. Mistretta about in the Affordable Housing Board.
Do we have any idea of what kind of a vacant land adjustment we might get?
We don't. In the past, we were able to make the case that we didn't have a lot of land. We didn't see a lot of land coming up. So that's one of the reasons why we did an overlay zone on the golf course. We'll probably have to do that again. So that says if the golf course is ever sold, that we would permit a higher density development there for an exchange of more affordable housing. We would also just survey what's coming up. We know some buildings are coming up, some developments coming up. We talked about Maplewood Theater redevelopment. We have a development on Springfield Avenue. So they'll all be rolled into our 4th round. And then, of course, what we're doing with Ingerman. So those are all the numbers. So we'll look at all those numbers, what's possible, what do we think is going to happen, and then he'll come up with some kind of number working with us.
Does the environmental issues with any of the land make it unavailable for housing?
I'm not sure. I think he has to look
Yes.
into that. I think it's the significance of the contamination, what step it's in, things like that.
Well, because certain level of contamination you can't have housing on, correct?
Yes, and that's taken into account when they do the vacant land adjustment. If it's undevelopable for residential housing for any reason,
Yeah.
then it won't be counted toward your vacant land adjustment.
It depends on the contamination. If it's groundwater, you can cap it. If it's soil, it's a little more difficult because if you have to dig into the soil to do foundations and footing, then that becomes a problem. But if you can cap it, and we've had developments, the development on Yale Corners on an old Amico site,
Right.
condos there. So
One thing with the vacant land adjustment, as you said, there's not a lot of vacant land in Maplewood. And the way that the new law was written will make it so that they put a cap. Basically, you can't go below a 25%. So 25% of your obligation is the lowest that it'll come down using the vacant land adjustment.
Right. And so I just want to make sure that this is a very important thing. And I really, Committee Member DeLuca, our chair of our Affordable Housing Board, if you don't mind, you already covered all of this in your comments, but just to sort of make it very clear that this 216 number, if we adopt our resolution on the agenda tonight, is what's called the prospective need. But that isn't going to be, when we submit our plan, that isn't going to be the number at the end of the day based on vacant land adjustment. Also, it depends on what kind of developments we put in. You get credits for affordable housing that also includes supportive services element. And there's all kinds of ways that that number will be reduced.
Right.
And so we don't want people to think, to walk away from this, that, oh my God, where are they going to put 216 units in Maplewood in the next 10 years?
yeah, and this is, the main way that we have accomplished this in the past is through set-asides. And we have, we'll continue to do that, and that's going to be the next topic. But right now, we have a 15% set-aside. So anybody who builds knows that they have to do at least 15% of the housing. So that's how we've gotten, a lot of housing built that's affordable that way. And that's probably how we're going to get the majority of these units. And again, it's over 10 years. Did want to talk about the rehab units. That's also over 10 years. So that's, an average of 2 per year. In the past, we used to put in our capital budget money to do this. Every year we put in $60,000 to cover this. So it might be something we want to think about. It allows us to do this in a planned growth way, to do a couple of units each year. We part of it is that, the minimum, and at least the old regs, and I don't know about the new regs, but the old regs said you had to do at least $10,000 in rehab, and you just can't get things done. So we have our policy was 20,000. So if we were to do that, if we put aside 50,000 a year in our capital budget, we'd be able to do 2 units, 20,000, and then some administrative cost on top of that.
Okay, you wanted to talk about the set aside still?
I think I first wanted to see if we're okay with, well, the resolution is at 4025. If anyone has any, if no questions, then we'll just be adopting the resolution and consent. Okay.
Right. And what's South Orange's obligation?
South Orange's obligation is
170 something, right?
163 is their prospective need, and they also have a 20 rehabilitation present need. Milburn, they have a 555 prospective need,
Well, that's because they haven't been doing
right?
it for decades.
And Livingston has 461 prospective need. So,
They have land, though.
They have land, yeah.
They have malls, they
A
can.
lot of these towns, I mean, to the credit of past township committees and current, we've been
doing it.
doing it.
Yep.
At least 15%, as long as I've been on the planning board.
Yep.
And then more. I mean,
West Orange has Their rehab is 409 and their prospective need is 660.
Well, they have 12 and a half square miles.
Yeah, so they're big and they have space and,
They've been doing
We'll
it,
work on
but
it.
you're getting pushback. Yeah,
okay.
I'm more worried about our infrastructure and the traffic that is already way greater, given the number of projects being done one after the other in our neighboring town of South Orange without any pause to wait and see what the impact of this development is. There's another one, another one. So that's a concern of mine. So anyway, set
Okay,
aside.
Set aside is, as I said before, we have 15% and we would like to consider moving up to 20% as part of our fourth round application. I think it makes sense to do that. Oftentimes, by the way, the 15% you have to round up. So it does become 20% a lot. But I think we require, and we have required 20% for sale units and 15% for rehabs. And what the Affordable Housing Board is recommending is that we change both to 20%. And that as we talk to new developers, such as the Maplewood Theater, that we talk to them about 20%. And that when we adopt our plan in June, that 20% figure be the figure that we use for set-asides.
Right. And while we used to worry in the past that maybe 20% would scare developers away, when we did our RFP and we said 20%, we still got like over
Said
10.
100%.
Yes. And we got over 10 applications.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So that'll be something that we'll be bringing up as part of our plan. And that's all I have.
okey doke. Mr. Daffis, site plan revision.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm so excited about that
Site plan
affordable
exempt.
housing stuff.
Yeah.
Just so excited, really excited to move that forward. Okay, so site plan exempt. This is providing an exemption to a site plan review, which means going to the planning board to get an approval, right?
Right.
And our master plan highly recommends, and we have all discussed this and seen this, especially those of us on the planning board, that oftentimes we require, because of the way our exemption was written, is currently written until we change it, that even in circumstances of change in use from permitted to permitted, we require people to go to the planning board, which is onerous, expensive. It adds another layer of unnecessary review. So it's not very small business friendly, right? And we have so many examples of retail uses that changed from permitted to permitted, and we required people to go. And we actually looked at some data here. We didn't just anecdotally decide this. In fact, we've been talking about this for months. And I want to take a moment to highlight and spotlight the tremendous effort that went into this by Administrator Wary and Community Development Director DePalma in particular. A lot of drafting and redrafting and redrafting and redrafting, and a lot of talking that we did. So, so the idea here is to not do that to folks. And like I said, we have data that shows that a lot of people walked away from retail applications when they found out they had to go to the planning board. They couldn't afford it.
It's very expensive.
Yeah, English wasn't their first language. We sat through a review, the mayor and I and the planning board, with such business owner, and it was painful. She didn't, the committee, the board was asking questions, relevant questions that, anyway, so you get the idea. So what we propose to do is to add the following language to our exemption, our site plan exemption code. In particular, numbers 2 and 3, which are new language. Number 2 says, and again, we'll put this out there on the website for the public's edification. Number 2 says that interior building alterations that comply with all other requirements of our code, including parking, right? And that makes a lot of sense because the examples that we were just talking about were of interior alterations. They were not exterior alterations. They were not expanding the building. In those instances, you're still going to have to go for a site plan review by the planning board, right? But interior building alterations that otherwise comply with other requirements, including parking requirements, should be exempt, and that's what we're proposing. And then committee member DeLuca, in his wisdom, as per usual, recommended that we add number 3, the following language. Again, we'll put this up on the website for the public. Any commercial space in a redevelopment plan within 5 years of the planning board's resolution approving the plan. Why are we doing that? What does that mean? Well, if you're in a redevelopment zone and your use was already, your commercial space use was already approved, then you should also be exempt from site plan review by the planning board because we already did that at least once for that particular use. And we just put in within 5 years of the planning board's resolution approving the plan to make it a little bit more specific, that it's not forever. And that is the proposed language in our site plan exemption. Questions, discussion?
No, you covered it really well, and we've been talking about it for a long
A lot. We've been talking about it for
For
months.
years, because I think we were talking about it when I was on that committee 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm for these, and I appreciate that added one. I never understood why, if you're moving into a brand new building, why the business has to go through all the same approvals that the developer just went through. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that one.
so again, if we're all in favor of approving this, we will do the necessary drafting to move it as an amended ordinance.
We'll have
Can I
it
ask
by
another
10.
question about this document that you sent around a little earlier? And G, it says, all off-street parking areas shall be paved with a bituminous concrete or cement binder pavement. And I'm just wondering if we could update that language, since we're talking about stormwater utility and drainage and stuff, that maybe we want to make amends to what kind of surfacing.
Where are you looking at? I'm sorry, I
On
didn't catch
page
you.
4 of that document, G under drainage, that one was surfacing.
Page 4. This is the document
don't know, this-
explaining the PRB zone.
The proposed 271-70 zone requirement.
G.
G.
Huh. And then
Because
say,
we're talking about stormwater and making improvements, and we even have credit in our credit manual that we're going to talk about. We talk about if you're making improvements to your impervious surfaces. So I'm just wondering if we want to update that language. Maybe there's something we can do in there to promote using more eco-friendly or whatever the right language is, pervious surface.
Why don't we ask Mr. Kittner to take a look at this and give us his
yeah,
recommendation?
but good eye on that. That's good eye. Yeah, because we should be holistic about this, right? In light of everything that we're trying to do. Very good eye, Committee Member Engel.
Anything else on this discussion item?
Yeah, I think we were also going to change the definition of, the definitions of definition. Of the eat-in and take-out restaurants, we were going to eliminate the requirement to go for a site plan review.
That's right. I did miss,
Those are in the 271-3 definitions.
right.
We say an eat-in restaurant must go for site plan, and then take-out restaurant must go for a site plan. We were talking about eliminating that.
How does that work with like waste and oil and all that stuff? Does that not, isn't that stuff like where your garbage is going to go on site plan, or that's just done to the health department?
Yeah, that'll all be addressed by the health, getting the permits from the health.
Getting the permits, but just when you're going through site planning, some of those issues are brought up and you have to plan for it. So if you're already opening and getting your last inspections done, and then it's a little bit too late to plan for
Sorry.
waste.
And that's thought of, where it says all, that these applicants have to comply with all other aspects of the code. So we already describe in our code things like what your hours can be, how you can store your solid waste, what kind of pickup you have to have. And so it'll fall to those departments to ensure compliance with our code in its entirety, which we have sections that cover the things that you're talking about.
So we have like reader-friendly versions that are business owners who are going to be like one, if, I'm just thinking, because sometimes you go to these departments and you don't really get those kind of answers, or you don't really understand the literature.
Yeah, so as part of this consideration, we've talked about moving this from a land use application to an administrative application, and how we're doing this in part to be business friendly. And that application process, the administrative review, should be business friendly as well. And so we should develop the types of materials that you're talking about, and something that we've considered as part of this conversation.
Thank you.
Right. And the last thing I want to add, because if you're still awake out there and you're following this discussion, you might ask yourself, so what replaces what would have been a site plan review? Well, as Mr. Wary just said, an administrative review conducted in-house by the buildings department, inclusive of an expanded, thorough zoning review, alongside the application of our other codes and regulations. For instance, health inspection for food use, grease traps, odors, waste disposal, town code already regulating noise, recycling, and other relevant inquiries or concerns that have been dealt with by the planning board in these site plan review hearings. So this administrative review, this expanded administrative review would replace the site plan review. And we wanted to make sure that we had all of that in place before we went ahead and adopted this revised exemption. And we certainly do have all of that in place.
So who is doing the administrative review?
Buildings Department zoning officer and their team.
Good.
Well, I'm always good when a business owner doesn't have to hire like an architect and a planner to come to and pay a lot of money to do a meeting. I just
Right.
want to make sure that they're aware of the code and different things that
Yeah,
need to get
well,
done
when they
before
come
the
in, you
inspections
get-
come.
Yeah, if somebody has a project, they check to see if it's zoned appropriately, and then they get the proper paperwork, and depending on what they're going to do, then they get told whether or not they go before the planning board.
Yeah, and there's other zoning changes that we're looking at and discussing. We also, I know not everyone is ready for this yet, but I think we're going to get there as we continue discussing things. We will also eventually have a meeting of the minds on expanding permitted uses in the commercial, industrial, and special light industrial zones, where things are already happening and they're getting variances anyway. So we will get there as well. So I'm really pleased. We're all really proud of this. This is an effort. The mayor's input here and insight has been tremendous because of her planning board experience as a special improvement district manager in several special improvement districts. And I think I'm really proud of our moving in this direction.
Great.
Really am. Thanks.
All right. We'll move on to Mr. DeLuca, and then Mr. Davis doesn't have any more discussion.
I'm done.
So we said we were going to have one more look at the stormwater management fee credit and adjustment policy manual.
Right.
So people have questions. I did send out some revisions to the rain barrel language just to make sure that and I really copied this out of the Pittsburgh.
Stole it.
It's a one-time $20 credit for an installed rain barrel of at least 50 gallons that captures and detains roof runoff on the property. One rain barrel per parcel will be allowed a credit. Again, it's a one-time credit of $20. I also took the Pittsburgh application and just amended it a bit, but make it very simple. All you have to do is fill this application. Property where's the rain barrel located, the product name, size of the barrel, and just attach a picture to it. And it is very simple to get the rain barrel. I think most residents will avail themselves of this credit as opposed to some of the more detailed credit, although you never know. But all the credits are in here. And I know I did have one question of, other than the rain barrel, all the other credits are annual credits, so you get them every year. But the rain barrel was a one-time credit.
Right.
I had a question for, under application process 3.1.2, it says you completed credit applications can be dropped off at or mailed to. Can you not email it or do it online anyway? You have to actually bring it in person or mail it?
did talk about this, and I don't remember why.
Is there anything they can't
No.
submit that
No.
couldn't be scanned and sent in?
No, it could be emailed too.
So can we update that section?
Yeah.
I just had a question about the rain barrels. Like, is that a program we can do through DPW where we can like make it easy for people to buy them or recommend or something? Because it'll be easy on both ends. You're buying it from DPW, it's approved. Maybe they deliver it. I don't know. It might be a lot, but
No.
some kind of.
Why would we
program.
do that?
Why would we or why would?
Why would we?
Well, I mean,
I mean, we,
Because we want to promote better management of stormwater.
I know, but.
Or
Home
maybe we
Depot's
could
a
make-
Mile
First of all,
away.
you might
I don't
hear
know
that
that we want
Essex
to put
County
that on
has a program
DPW.
like that.
Essex.
And that Essex County has a program to sell rain barrels. And I think I know we participate in their program for compost barrels where once or twice a year, they'll come and set up in the municipal hall parking lot, town hall parking lot, and they'll sell rain barrels.
They sell.
Yeah.
To the public. And so we can maybe add on to that rain barrels as well.
Yeah.
We'll take a look.
I think if the county's doing it, that's fine. I'd hate to incur a lot of money to buy barrels,
Right.
hoping that we're going to resell them.
No, I don't want to do that either. I don't want to do that either. But if we have order, like, because there's power in
Yeah.
Right.
members purchasing together. And
Yeah.
also it help on the application process, because if we know they're getting the DPW approved one, because they've done it through us.
You're
it's A
okay.
little bit easier to
Yeah.
do the rebate or
I think
whatever.
you
it's
should
called.
I'll check with
Run
the,
that on engineering, public works and planning and make sure that's
yeah,
something.
and I'll talk to the county.
You can, okay, but there is no, all it has to do is meet this credit, is that be a 50-gallon
Yeah.
barrel. So it doesn't need, we say that having an auto dispensing drip irrigation technology is recommended, but it's not required. So you just have to need a 55 or 50-gallon.
But is it recommended for a reason? Like, it's good to have, I
It
mean,
just empties it
easier
out.
to
It
get the
empties the
water
water out so that rainwater can get in. What happens is people,
Or to use the.
they don't empty the barrels so that the rainwater comes in, it just flops and goes to the side. So, but, it's very expensive to get those irrigation.
I
It's a-
see.
It's a pressure thing.
So we do this through the county already. So the county offers to our
Great.
residents for pickup here in Maplewood, 55-gallon rain barrels. You can purchase them for
There
$74.95.
you go. We'll give you.
Great.
$20
So let's
credit.
promote it and
Yeah.
include it and
There you go.
run it.
And we do usually promote this, but I think like in our Wednesday email blast, but I think we have an opportunity now with the stormwater
This
utility
thing
to
going
do a
out.
little bit more around.
Tie it all together.
it all
And those
together.
clean water posts she's doing is tied
You're
into
doing
this.
a wash heater and the thing, I think there needs to be, I think I said this once before somewhere, that information when the sewer bill and the new stormwater, there should be
I
a
have an insert in there.
FAQ sheet in there.
Yeah. That can go in the insert.
And I know it's on the agenda for the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow to talk about that literature and how they can help
Good.
as well.
Cool.
So
I
if-
had another question.
Yes,
Sorry.
go ahead.
So I just was wondering, so credit types, like some of these make sense, but then we get to like sand, vegetative filters, filter strips. And I didn't know if we wanted to just like, what is that? Maybe we wanted to add a sentence in it to say like what it is, or I don't know, maybe it's one of
We
those really
can,
costly
we
things,
can.
but like what, I don't know what it is.
Or provide like pictures or something. Yeah.
I think someone who's going to do it knows what it is. I mean, this is not like you're not going to do this in your backyard. You're gonna
Oh, yeah,
do it
no.
every day.
Most people can't afford to do all that. Come on. Yeah.
No, and it's
Well, for the general reader, just
Your,
a little clarification.
to save.
I had to use Google
I didn't Google
for
that
a lot
one
of it.
because I was just
And
gonna ask
again,
it
we
here.
do say that if you have questions,
You can call
you can
Patrick.
contact Mr. Kittner.
I know, but Mr. Kittner gets a lot of emails and has a lot on his plate, so I'm trying to avoid more. And then I guess my other stupid question is like, what is a 10-year storm event? That's what it says, right? Everything says
Right.
10-year storm event.
Yeah.
10-year storm what?
Event.
10-year storm event, everything
Well, it
says
used to
that.
be it's like an annual storm
But I
event.
don't know what that is, and it's in all of these are described as
used to
must be a
be-
10, must
Yeah,
manage
it's
a generate a 10-year storm event.
There's
It's a
certain
standard acceptance
engineering,
Standard.
yeah, standards for a 100-year storm event,
But-
10-year storm event, 5-year storm event. But
Like
now
the
they-
mayor said, now we're,
Somebody wanting to do this will talk to somebody who knows exactly what a 10-year,
they don't mean
25,
anything, those
100-year.
designations.
I don't think anybody knows. They have it written down in the engineering office probably somewhere.
Because people might want to get rid of some of their long
Let's see-
driveway and
let's
do
see
something.
if,
I mean,
if Mr. Kittner has a definition, we can put in the definitions, 10-year storm event.
thank you.
I had one question. I had several, but so I see that there's a November 1st, 2025 deadline for applicants to have that, what they do be retroactive to this year's fee. And I was wondering if going forward, we might have a date that we could tell people, like, if you do your, if you have your application in by this date or approved by this date, that they could expect to have it count for that year's fee. Like, just to give people a sense. I know it says like it's rolling, but, because I was kind of doing the math of how long, based on like 60 days or 90 days to get it approved, like maybe like February 1st, like we could kind of just tell people, if you apply, submit by February 1st, it, could be applied to that year. If you miss that deadline, it may not, you're not guaranteed to get it applied for that year, something like that.
Well, I think the problem is you don't know when you're going to adopt one of these and put it in. So if you, have you had, I mean, that's the reason I think we want it to be reviewed, and that we were going to, once it's on a rolling basis, and once it comes in 60 days that we get to review it, we can do 30 days more. But nothing's going to take more than 90 days. So I think the idea is to be flexible, to let things come in as people adopt these during the course of the year and not have a deadline, so that if it was February 1st and someone adopted it in June, they would not be eligible. This way, if they adopt it in June, we can make it eligible and either give them a credit for this year or next year. And I guess it would have to be for next year, because the bills
Yeah.
go out in June, so.
Well, right. Well, it says like for the first year, if
Right.
you do it by November 1st,
Right.
then it's retroactive. But then after that, there's no deadlines.
Well,
So,
it would be going forward.
right.
See, I like that it said that this for this year, because we're just rolling it out. I hear what Ms. Herman's saying, though, is that because if you're going to want the credit and you have to, like, you have to get it approved before the bills go out, right? Every other year.
Well, I would say no, because while the bills go out in May typically and are due in June, it's an annual bill. So you would have to be approved the year prior to June 1, because we want the improvement in the ground on January 1st in order for you to get the credit for what ends up being a bill you pay in June. So
Then we're talking calendar year.
we're talking calendar year, and my expectation, I guess, would be that any credit you receive is applied to your next year's
Right.
assessment, because again, the bill's due in June, but it's for January to December.
So why don't we just make that clear that
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, just some clarification, because I, for people to know based on when they do their action and get their approval, when it would qualify.
okay.
Lisa, just to clarify that, so if you do your work and it's done by like March 2026, that credit wouldn't be applied till 2027?
Let us talk about that and
Yeah.
figure that out.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, good. Mr. Wary,
Oh, I'm sorry, I had one more question.
okay?
Okay, and this one comes from the Senior Advisory Committee, so I'm sharing it on their behalf. So if you were to do, like, for example, the driveway, one where you take an impermeable surface and you make it permeable, then would that change the calculation of what your fee would be?
So again, it has to do with the amount of square footage of impervious surface. So and I don't remember when I responded to you what the boundaries of the impervious
Well,
surface,
there's
but
the difference between a credit and the conditions.
right, but
and what the.
Right, and that
two
was what the
things.
question was.
one, you
There's-
would reduce the amount of impervious surface. So if you reduced it enough to move to a lower category, yes. Let me just get this.
You'd have to reduce it a lot.
You have to reduce it a lot. So a one unit is going to be from like 2,400 square feet to 4,000 square feet. That's one unit.
Oh,
That's the
wow.
range.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if you're at 4,000 and you reduce it by 500,
It's
doesn't
not
do
gonna
anything.
you reduce it by 1,500, you're probably not ever going to park your car there again because you don't have a driveway.
Right.
So,
Unless you park on the
you know,
grass.
so
which is against our law.
to get from one to another is quite quite large.
Yeah,
The-
and we have mostly
Yeah.
small lots, so.
Yeah.
So
small driveways.
I don't think that's gonna happen. It's possible, but, you know, and if that happened, it's fact specific. So if they actually reduce the square footage, yes, you'd go in and look at that. You say, and then, so now you're in a lower classification. So instead of paying 70, you pay 35. In addition, if you have adopted the drainage underneath, you would get a credit for that on top of it.
Okay, I'm gonna end.
Thank
this
you so much
conversation.
for explaining that. It's really helpful.
All right, so you've got your.
Yeah, we're going to introduce it at the next meeting.
Okay,
It's very exciting. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work on this.
yeah, a lot of work. Mr. Worry, last discussion item is yours.
Thank you, Mayor.
How much do we want to pay the police for off-duty work?
Yes. So I had circulated a proposed resolution establishing rates for off-duty employment, and this would update what was established by resolution back in 2023. So we typically update annually the police off-duty rates. We didn't last year because they didn't receive an increase. They, being the police department, didn't receive an increase last year because we were out of contract. But now we've established rates for all of our police officers. And so I'd proposed new rates. If you look at what I'd shared with you, we established rates for general Maplewood events, public events that receive permits and support from the township, and the South Orange Maplewood School District rates. Those are directly calculated on the overtime rate, or the rate, I should say, of the highest paid patrol officer. And so for general rates, that's if they're working PSE&G jobs or usually it's utility work, they get paid that officer's, the highest officer's overtime rate. If it's a public event, they get that officer's straight rate, so their regular hourly rate. And if it is a school district event, they get the highest paid officer's regular rate. So those are the rates to be established for Maplewood. We also do quite a bit of work in Milburn, and when we do general and road jobs in Milburn, they pay us, our officers, regular overtime rate, calculated on the highest paid patrol officer. But Milburn has negotiated rates for their school district, the Short Hills Mall, and Paper Mill Playhouse. Milburn sets the rates, and if we want to work there, we have to adopt those rates. And so that's been done historically in Maplewood. So I'd proposed what are currently Milburn's rates for, again, their school district, Short Hills Mall, and Paper Mill Playhouse. I have proposed an increase to the hourly rate for police cars. We currently charge $12 an hour. I propose that we increase it to $15 an hour. The state law says that it can't be any higher than the actual cost or what is established in the FEMA schedule of equipment rates. And so the $15 is below that FEMA rate. So it's within our right to set the car rate to $15 an hour. The resolution previously had also established who was eligible for those public events rates because it's a discounted amount, whereas instead of paying an overtime rate, they're paying a straight time rate. And similar to last year or to previous years, we have any event by the Maplewood Municipal Alliance, Springfield Avenue Partnership, Maplewood Village Alliance, Columbia High School Cougars Booster Club. In previous years, we had named, by an example, a nonprofit in town who has an annual event. I had proposed that be removed in this year's version because we hadn't applied that rate to all nonprofits, and it's my recommendation that we treat everybody uniformly. So if there was an interest in a nonprofit rate, we could have a discussion about setting that, but that we shouldn't be singling out any one nonprofit or for that matter, any one group individually to receive a lower rate than any others. The township doesn't benefit much from that distinction because we are only collecting 10% on their fee. So the difference between their regular rate and their overtime rate is $30. So it's a difference of $3 an hour. But so I make the recommendation just so that we have some uniformity in how we treat nonprofits.
Any questions or discussion on it? Does
Yes.
everyone agree?
I agree with the last part. about eliminating that group, but I did have a question. Going, and this has always bothered me about Paper Mill Playhouse
Mm.
and the Short Hills Mall. So when the Rent Party had their concerts at the Woodland, because they were serving liquor, we required at least one police officer there. And I believe they were charged at the general rate.
Yeah, I would,
Let's assume that they were charged at the general rate, which would be, under your numbers, would be $95.
yeah.
If the Paper Mill Playhouse had something going over there and we assigned an officer there, we would only charge $80.
Mhm.
So, and I know when I did this back in whenever it was, 2015 or so, and put these rates in. So I was told the same thing. So explain to us again why we are giving a discount to the Paper Mill Playhouse.
Because Milburn does is the shortest answer, right? So Milburn has negotiated rates with both Short Hills Mall and Paper Mill Playhouse, and Milburn has set the rate. So if our officers want to work in Milburn, and they do, you know, and if we want to provide them opportunities to work overtime if they want to for these off-duty jobs, we either adopt the rates that was established with these entities, or generally our officers aren't going to.
So do our officers only work in Milburn as an outside community? Do they ever work in Irvington or Union?
Yeah, absolutely. They could.
And
They could.
what would they get paid there?
They would get paid the general rate, so that the overtime rate, which is, you know, would be 95.18. So our officers, to your point, I mean, I agree. I don't like the idea of it. But our officers would work at Short Hills and at Paper Mill Playhouse for a fee lower than we would work for like municipal food charts, right? But the question is either we adopt these rates, or they
Or they can't work
generally
there.
aren't going to work those jobs.
So we're
And
just gonna have-
with the so the new general rate would be nearly $105, 104.70 cents.
That's right. Yeah.
If they, and with going to the outsourcing,
Mhm.
do you think the 10% fee will go higher?
I would hope it goes lower. I
Lower?
have an expectation that it'll be slightly under.
Okay.
And I have that based on what other municipalities have secured going out to competitive contracting like we're doing.
Okay. Would we still, so let's say it came in at 7%, would we still charge 10% and then us take 3%?
We would do an evaluation of it, but yes, there are still costs to us in terms of
Right, sure.
scheduling and
We issue checks. Oh, no, they issue checks.
we
right?
issue checks.
We issue
yeah.
checks, yeah. So
Yeah, so
there's
there's
some-
there's that payroll process to it. And, you know, as with anything, while, you know, they're out there doing work, the other entity's paying for them, just having officers costs us something. And so, you know, we have to be reasonable in the amount that we charge. But yes, I would expect that we would still collect some amount above what that company would collect.
Does anyone else have any questions or anything? I'm fine with it. Okay. Do you need to do it for next meeting?
It'll be on for the next meeting.
Okay. Unless we can get everything done in the next 3 minutes. I have a motion to go past 9:30
I move we go past 9:30
if we have to.
if we have to.
Second,
Daffis,
yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Ms. Harmon.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, and can I get a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll
Move
move
it.
the consent agenda.
Second,
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. This moves us to our any subject matter public comment, seeing no one in the house. Ms. Perez, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to?
Any members of the public
Speak
joining us
to
on
us.
Zoom, if you'd like to comment during any items on the agenda, you may raise your hand now.
Non-agenda.
Non-agenda, yeah. Anything,
Any.
anything. Almost
I
there.
see none.
Great. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second,
Mr. Daffis.
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca.
yes.
Sengel.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Mayor Adams.
Yes, thank you. Good night, everyone. We'll see you, our budget hearings. If you're.
Good move.
1:30. Oh,
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
Yeah, we're done.
they're gonna start coming in.
It's nice.
You got promoted, I see.
Maybe we didn't